There's a cardinal rule you should never break when it comes to Monster Hunter. Never buy the base game. Always wait for the expansion. Wait for Capcom to sort out the performance issues, and more importantly, wait for a proper endgame. Both World and Rise were made monumentally better with their expansions. Sunbreak turned a decent game into an excellent one, and now that Wilds is out, we're gonna finally start seeing people appreciate Sunbreak more, because that's how the world works. Everything sucks until it becomes history, and then it's good. Having said that, I'm an idiot. I bought Wilds day one like millions of others because I'm not gonna pretend that I'm better than them, that I have more patience. Nobody has less patience than me. Not that this is a contest. And even though everyone and their mother is complaining about the performance, that's far from the biggest issue with Wilds. This is Dragon's Dogshit 2 all over again, where people are so wrapped up in performance discussions that they're ignoring the glaring gameplay issues. There are two ways you can go about judging a Monster Hunter: by its campaign, the briefest part of the overall experience, and its post-game, aka the reason why people play this series. And I've got problems with both. Is it fair to harshly criticize low rank when it comprises a fraction of your total playtime? I say yes, because A, it's something you have to endure to get to the worthwhile content, and 2, it's clear Capcom wants you to care about the campaign, and for all the effort they put into it, it's pretty bad. Before I go further, I want to be clear. This is not a review. I'm not here to weigh the good with the bad. I'm here to explain the negative effects of streamlining, so you might get the impression that I hate this game. I don't. I think Wilds is great. I'm looking forward to its updates throughout the year. If I sound angry in this video, it's only because I'm passionate about this series. And I'll talk more about high rank later, because first I want to explain how pandering to modern gaming audiences has casualized Monster Hunter to an almost unbelievable extent. Wilds is the culmination of several generations worth of streamlining, and sadly, Capcom lost faith in their own series. They couldn't just let Monster Hunter be Monster Hunter. The same tired, modern tripe you see infesting every big budget game wormed its way into Monster Hunter, and while the core gameplay is still enjoyable, we're at the point where you can't ignore the minor issues because they're not minor issues anymore. You've got an immense emphasis on storytelling here, and it's far and away the biggest travesty with this game. What I want to know is who the hell was asking for more story in Monster Hunter? Tell me, I want to know, who are you? Who thought this series needed forced walking, cutscene upon agonizing, droning cutscene, and invisible walls out the ass railroading you between objectives? The game starts out on rails in a scripted set piece that has nothing to do with fighting monsters. It kinda reminds me of Panzer Dragoon Zwei, except without the fun, and it sets expectations for things to come. This is the kind of mindless gameplay you see in a modern Sony movie game like Spiderman or Uncharted. Why is this here? Can we abolish this type of fake, cinematic gameplay already? It's not impressive or interesting, but okay, at least it's brief. Monster Hunter's always taken several hours for low rank to get rolling, and it doesn't look like that will ever change. The entire story mode is an exercise in tedium, with characters never shutting up. I started skipping cutscenes immediately. Capcom has some nerve expecting anyone to give a single care about these melodramatic characters. Why does the story take itself so seriously? I'm here to kill the same 24 monsters hundreds of times over, not watch a soap opera. I couldn't care less about this mopey kid. 15 years ago, I would not have believed you if you told me Monster Hunter would turn into this.
You really do take after your father. Not, his role among our people was particular.
I know the campaign is designed to ease new players in, but can we stop pandering to new players with every single big budget game already? Can we give it a rest? Is this what we have to endure in the name of sales? Make the game monumentally more boring because the masses have been brainwashed into liking this non-interactive waste of time? What's worse is that all the time spent recording these cutscenes, all that money spent on facial capture and hiring voice actors could have been scrapped, and the game would have been ready for release a year sooner. That effort could have been spent on optimization, or incorporating more monsters, or balancing the mess that is high rank. I can think of 100 things I'd rather Capcom do, like fix their garbage inventory management that's plagued this series since Game 1, then double down on the story. Monster Hunter didn't become Capcom's biggest series because of its story, so why start now? Where this becomes obnoxious is with the linearity. Almost immediately, you're running into invisible walls if you dare to step an inch off the beaten path. This quest wants you to gather honey, and if you walk towards this blatant, glowing hive, the game will turn you around. It doesn't want you to gather honey from that point, it wants you to gather from this specific one. Why? Does it trigger an event? Does a monster attack while you're gathering and that's why you need to gather here? No, the game just doesn't trust you. It also doesn't trust you to leave the camp in the early game. It insists on giving you a guided tour for much longer than it needs to. You're even given an option when you start a new game to have light tutorials, which doesn't stop the game from forcing you to color within the lines throughout the entirety of low rank. The invisible walls are everywhere, with forced walking bookending nearly every main quest. For the love of God, take the damn gloves off. Have some respect for the player. How can devs ever expect players to learn if the training wheels stay on the entire time? Rise introduced rideable companions to this series, and let me tell ya, they were much better there than they are in Wilds. The mounts move automatically during the many forced walking segments, and it's difficult to tell when you're finally in control. Check out this part. I'm not even touching the controller. The game is playing itself. It's walking me from one camp to another to watch a cutscene. I literally put my controller down and watched a movie. Who was this for? Who wanted this in Monster Hunter? Talk about a colossal waste of everyone's time. Look at this quest. Walk to this camp, talk to some people, blitz through these cutscenes, then boom, quest complete. The forced walking epidemic plaguing this industry is making every single game worse. With Monster Hunter, it effectively eliminates the hunting aspect. I thought World took things too far, with the glowing trail directing you to your target, but at least you had to examine footprints and collect materials to pick up on its scent. Wilds doesn't even have that. Every story mission, save for one, walks you directly to the target monster. Why even have giant maps with monsters roaming about if the only time the game wants me to actually play it is when I'm fighting a monster? Might as well make everything an arena fight at this point. There's no hunting here. You're given paintballs, and the game tricked me for a second into thinking I'd actually be tagging monsters again. Nope, the paintballs are used to distinguish between monsters of the same species if you're fighting multiple of the same type. Even monsters you've never seen before are automatically tracked on the map, marked as undiscovered monsters. Now there's one complaint I've seen constantly, that the story mode monsters are too easy. And I have to wonder how anyone can consider this a flaw unique to Wilds. Of course low rank is easy. It's low rank. I've got news for you. Low rank has always been easy, even when the series had broken hitboxes. Should it be more difficult? Of course it should. But in this endless pursuit of lowering the skill floor to a mere stepping stone for every modern game, we need to endure a dozen hours of guaranteed victories at the start of every Monster Hunter. I want it to change, but it's not gonna happen. Ever. And it's not like people sink hundreds of hours in low rank. G rank is the reason why these games have such lasting popularity. And you already knew going into this game that it doesn't have G rank. Did any of the World veterans actually play World at release? Or any other Monster Hunter for that matter? I don't know why Monster Hunter is inundated with players who feel compelled to call themselves veterans, like they served a 2-year stint in Iraq 20 years ago. You see this everywhere, people prefacing their comments with "I'm an X-year veteran, started with insert game here," as if that makes their opinion more trustworthy. You can make your comments without bragging about tenure. Do you see Mario fans going, "Hey man, I played Mario since Mario 64, I'm a 30-year vet, and here's what I think of Odyssey"? It doesn't happen! I think most of this stems from the belief that Monster Hunter is some hardcore series. It's not. Yeah, there are some tough fights, but it's not a brutal, unforgiving series worth bragging about. It used to be more difficult 17 years ago, when hitboxes were absurd, and you needed to contort your hand into a claw just to move the camera, but those days are long gone. The extreme casualization comes not from a reduction in large monster difficulty. In other words, the monsters themselves are not easier. It's the conveniences you're afforded, and the streamlined mechanics that makes the game easier. Every change I'm about to list didn't necessarily start with Wilds, but each one represents another step towards making the game more accessible. If this sounds like a list of improvements to your ears, don't complain about the low difficulty. You're part of the problem. You don't need to bring pickaxes and bug nets on a hunt, and they don't break. Gathering points are automatically marked on the map. Large monsters are also automatically marked on the map, so paintballs have diminished functionality. Carved monster parts are teleported to your camp automatically. Broken parts are picked up automatically. provisions are delivered to your person, you don't need to grab them from a supply box because supply boxes are gone. You don't need to deliver account items. You can heal while moving. You have both a healing and status item shortcut that automatically chooses the best item to use in your situation. You can eat a meal mid-hunt, right under the monster's nose if you want. You can consume hot and cold drinks by grappling bugs from the walls. You can sharpen your weapon while moving on a mount. Weapons have innate, powerful skills like Master's Touch and Load Shells, even low-rank weapons, more on that later. Palicos are essentially invincible. They grab aggro, set traps, heal you, gather resources, and so on. If you think the game is too easy, keep your Palico on standby. I could go on, but you get the point. If you want to know why older games were more difficult, there's a short list. Nothing to do with more challenging monster patterns or taking more damage. Seeing people complain that monsters die in under 10 minutes on low rank feels like a waste of breath. There are plenty of issues with the campaign. Difficulty isn't one of them. Neither is the short length. What, you want low rank to last 40 hours? Why? It should be brief. It's a glorified tutorial. When the credits roll, the game doesn't end, it begins. Now you might be under the misguided delusion that high rank fixes all of the problems, that this is when the game gets good. It does, but it doesn't. On one hand, there's much less story, thank God. On the other, now you can experience firsthand the complete destruction of balance. There's an obscure ancient saying, you probably haven't heard of it. It goes, less is more. What really set me off was when I completed a hunt towards the beginning of high rank, and the reward screen gave me 5 Guardian Rathalos plates. 5? 5 plates? 5 fucking plates? What are you doing? This isn't an isolated incident either, because now you can see at a glance which monsters drop gems. And the kicker is that not only can you now get guaranteed gems and plates with ease, you can save these hunts as investigations and repeat them for the same rewards. It's ridiculous. World was bad about this, but it wasn't this bad. Farming non-tempered optional quests is useless. First of all, there are barely any gathering quests, capture quests, there are no egg escorts. I don't know, maybe you hated this stuff, but this variety was why the series was called Monster Hunter and not Fighter. But even for fights, this series is doing its best to make optional quests obsolete. You want to fight tempered monsters out in the wild, just like the investigations in the world, because they give the best rewards. Except you don't even need to track tempered monsters anymore. They just appear. You open the map, find the ones that drop the best loot, and save them. There's no more farming here. What farming? What am I farming for? We're as far removed as humanly possible from the days when you could only get a Rathalos plate as a 2% tail carve. When rare items appear with this frequency, they cease to be rare. I'm not excited to get a shiny carve or drop because I'm getting them all the time. Why even carve anymore? What's the point? 3 dinky carves? Who gives a shit? I'm getting 24 drops that are automatically gathered and sent to my item chest at camp just by breaking parts left and right. What am I hunting for exactly in this Monster Hunter game? Decorations? Again? Remember those 5 Rathalos plates? On that same hunt, I got a smorgasbord of decorations, and 1 was crit element, and 2 were attack boost. I also got crit boost and critical eye all in what, the first 20 hours? What is this? There's no gradual progression in high rank. It's a vertical line. You go from 0 to broken. When you hit the end game, you can just craft top tier hybrid decorations at the melder. Farm for tickets, trade them in for more gems than you can count. Don't even hunt monsters at all. To anyone that's taking advantage of this exploit, why are you even playing the game? Grinding monsters for drops is the entire point of this series. If you don't want to grind, why are you playing Monster Hunter? It's like if you hated grinding in RPGs and decided to pick up Disgaea, then complained when you saw the level cap was 9,999. Capcom's solution to balancing this mess was to restrict attack-focused decorations to only weapon slots. So all those skills that you want to use, like critical element, you can't equip them in your armor slots. I can't even equip cool quality of life gems like razor sharp, speed sharpening, or handicraft on anything anymore, because they're inferior to the crit and damage gems that I'm slotting into my paltry amount of weapon slots, and they can't be slotted into armor. I'm getting more of these gems than ever before, and I can't even use them. Now I'm scrounging for garbage to slot into my dozen armor slots. Does that encourage build diversity? Yeah. Does it mean these otherwise useless decos finally serve a purpose? Yeah, but when I'm trying to throw together a build to help me kill a monster that's giving me grief, you know what I don't want? Fucking Jumpmaster. The decoration system has been ludicrously imbalanced for years, so it makes sense that Capcom wants to rebalance it. But this has to be their worst effort yet. Equally appalling is how tempered and frenzied monsters are handled, and both start appearing at the same time. Endgame revolves around fighting tempered monsters for parts to craft into Ardian weapons. Artian, I don't know. Frenzied monsters hit harder and faster, but they have less health. But the key difference is that they don't drop Ardian materials. They're also limited to a pool of just 5 monsters on just one map, and none of them are particularly difficult monsters to begin with. So there's almost no reason to fight them. It's a wasted system. It exists as a mechanic just to justify Gore Magala's inclusion. Will there be more frenzied monsters in future title updates? Will there be frenzied tempered hybrids? I don't know. Capcom said the first title update will add a monster harder than the current tempered ones, but is that just one monster or a new tier? Or is it the final boss that you can only fight once in low rank and then never again? Who the hell gave the green light on that? Now, the only thing Wilds needed to do to immediately become an improvement over Iceborne was ditch the Clutch Claw, and mercifully it's gone, replaced with a wound system that fulfills the same purpose, but feels much more organic. You don't need to grapple to a monster to tenderize a part, you just keep attacking the same part and it'll naturally tenderize. Perfect! It's so intuitive that I'm shocked it took until now to incorporate. Unfortunately, this mechanic wasn't balanced. Wounds are too powerful, and I hope this is addressed in a future title update instead of waiting until the expansion. It's very easy to stunlock a monster, even on high rank, by destroying its open wounds. The solution seems simple enough. Increase the tolerance threshold for wounds. Right now, it feels like you can wound every single body part without even trying. Why bother learning the moveset for Charge Blade when you can just spam Elemental Discharge? Weapons have seen rebalancing across the board, and it's one of the main reasons to play this game at launch. My go-to is Sword and Shield, which was given a perfect block in this game. Doesn't take a genius to realize that Offensive Guard turns a good weapon into an amazing one. But because weapons come with innate skills, I'm not comparing elemental damage or affinity percentages to determine my weapon choice anymore. I'm looking for anything that has Offensive Guard, and if I can't find a good weapon with Offensive Guard, I can just craft one thanks to Ardian crafting. I'm gonna start calling it Artisan crafting. This is Rush Shards all over again. This series doesn't want you to actually use weapons crafted from monster parts in the endgame. Not only am I getting 5 plates in one hunt, I don't even need those plates because I'm using garbage from a landfill to make fine-tuned weapons. I can choose whichever element I want, can focus on affinity or raw damage, and they come with max gem slots. Now I have a weapon of every element, and they all have Offensive Guard, and they all look the same, and you can't rename them. Even though there's layered armor, there are no layered weapons, so it's either use the inferior monster crafted weapons because they look cool, or spam artisan crafting until you roll a perfect weapon that looks the same as all the others. Great. I also don't understand what the deal is with all these confusing lobbies. What was wrong with the guild hub? You made a hub, gathered in a tiny ass room, and took turns posting quests. It was simple and easy. Do not reinvent the wheel. Now we've got this horrendous mess of a menu with more cascading menus and several different tabs and options for joining online groups, and none of it is straightforward. You can join an online lobby, but people can't join your fight unless you enable SOS. You can link with a friend in a different lobby, and when you post a quest he'll be notified it can join your hunt, but you can't see him roaming the world outside of a quest unless you're in an environment link. But in an environment link, you can't take turns posting quests. Or maybe you can, I'm not sure. None of this is easy to parse. It's such a needlessly convoluted system that only benefits random matchmaking, not playing with friends. If I search for a hunt, I can find dozens of SOS quests that I can join in seconds. Pop in, kill the monster, pop out with my rewards without any problem. It's fast and easy. But playing with a buddy is a hassle. Capcom probably realized how awful online interactions are too late in development, and decided that they needed to bring the hub back, which is why it's coming in the next title update. Another developer that is content to release unfinished games at launch and patch them later. Small wonder why they encourage using frame gen to fix performance issues. Before online gaming was popular, you couldn't get away with this. In regards to posting quests, therein lies another problem. For starters, the quest giver walks around. Why? I don't know. What possessed Capcom to have the most important NPC bumble around? Just stay put. Once you do talk to her, you'll realize that the optional quest menu has horrible quest assortment that doesn't have tabs separating by difficulty. It jumbles every quest into a giant list, and yeah, it's arranged by hunter rank, but you know what would have been nice? A tab dedicated to each rank, like how it was in prior games, or at the very least a separate menu for high rank quests. But at the end of the day, Why are we playing this game? To fight monsters. And despite my endless complaining and laundry list of issues, fighting monsters is just as fun as it's ever been. That's what matters. All of these complaints would be meaningless if there wasn't a strong roster of monsters to fight. Almost all of the new additions are great. Guardian Rathalos might be my favorite Rathalos fight in the series. I love how you can blow up the stalagmites it creates. I was glad to find out Nursilla was back, until I realized that Lalabarina is a superior spider fight. And thank God there aren't Elder Dragons here. Capcom focused on them way too much in the past few games. Normal monsters finally get a chance to breathe again. In spite of the immense casualization, this is still Monster Hunter. Barely. It's more Monster Fighter these days, but it's still enjoyable. But not only could it be better, it should be better. People managed to fall in love with the first game 20 years ago, warts and all. Has mankind regressed so much that we were able to adapt to challenges 20 years ago, but we can't anymore? Are you telling me that we could land on the moon in 1969 but not today? Oh. The extreme casualization here isn't a Monster Hunter only issue. This is an industry-wide issue. I can't believe we're on the same timeline where people released Ninja Gaiden on the NES and expected kids to throw their head at the wall until they beat it. Now games have very easy mode, a cinematic mode, arachnophobia mode. If you're deathly afraid of spiders, I've got news for you. There exists 3 million for every 1 human. Odds are you've got 10 crawling around your room right now. Get over it. Games aren't about stepping up to the challenge anymore, they're about experiences. And because of how accessible gaming is, Capcom can't pander to the comparative handful of fans that played the original Monster Hunter or the PSP entries. They need to cater to the tens of millions that started with World. And when you look at the big picture, is Wilds a massive departure from World? No. Most of my complaints with this game can also be levied towards World. And just like World, this will improve with Master Rank. I hope so.